And that's it for Bills training camp here at St. John Fisher University. 11 practices in the book, about 2.5 weeks. Yeah, we had the one night at the stadium. Vic, you've been doing it a long time, so I know we were just discussing. You're glad that the two-a-days and the limited fashion here is the new way.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are two ways to look at it. The downside is, and coaches will tell you this, not really enough time for preparation for the season. Teams generally are not ready to play real games when they are going to be played. You usually have sort of this secondary camp that takes about 4 weeks into the regular season before things clean up and look a little more like they should. But back in the day, Fredonia, I can remember those two-a-days grueling, being out there for those practices, watching these guys hit a lot through it, and there'd be injuries and there'd be everything, and it'd be like 6 weeks, and I know they dreaded it, so I think today's NFL players are much happier with this.
Box fans in the dorm rooms and all of that. Yes, back in the day, Vic, yes. Let's kind of go in reverse order, because the big talking point is actually what Shawn McDermott is deciding to do with the starters for preseason game number 1, which is this Saturday. The ones are going to get run for about a quarter, Josh Allen included. Lindsay, your thoughts on that decision from the Bills head coach?
It's a difficult one because, again, my mind goes straight to injuries, right? What would you do if someone got injured from that decision? But then again, you listen to Shawn McDermott today and he talks about, simulating game speed. When you have such a brand new receiving core for Josh Allen, it's important to actually put that into game action. He also talked about, for some of the new guys, playing in front of fans, all of these factors are important and definitely something to think about.
I recently heard a coach earlier this week say, might have been D'Amico Ryans with the Texans, you can't live in fear when you coach. So C.J. Stroud, going to put him on the field. Hey, that's their franchise, just as Josh Allen is the Bills' franchise. Is it nerve-wracking a bit to think about what could happen? Absolutely, when it happens under these circumstances. Injuries can also occur in practice. I mean, it's an unsafe game, period. But yes, I understand the logic of getting him with this whole new core of receivers, remade offensive line to a certain extent, and trying to get this group just out there at the elevated pace that a preseason game brings.
Josh Allen saying the other day, at this point in his career, he doesn't need preseason. Yes, maybe getting contact is something for the body to get used to again because he's wearing the red jersey. Vic, I just want to ping pong back to you. With your experience vastly in watching preseason action into the regular season, timing-wise, which seems to be the main thing they're going to grab onto with all these new players offensively, how much of that could actually be accomplished knowing that the game plan is so vanilla?
Yeah, look, the vanilla game plan is a factor in terms of running the actual plays that you're going to see when the regular season begins, or at least you won't see a majority of those. Some of the base plays are the base plays. They will use those in games, make no mistake about that. But more importantly, routes are routes, and passing is passing. So I don't think the fundamentals of a passing game are going to be all that different even with a vanilla game plan.
Bobby Babich also going to get defensive play calling duties, at least for the first preseason game. Lindsay, Shawn McDermott won't commit beyond that. Although I'm going to say the writing seems to be on the wall in terms of maybe the direction that's going.
Yeah, I mean, again, not fully giving us an answer. He made us wait until camp and then now saying we're going to take it day by day, game by game at this point. I think it's a smart decision, though. I mean, we've heard from Bobby Babich several times. We've heard players talk about him, other coaches talk about him. I think he's ready for this.
He's been doing it as much as he can during the call-up periods here at camp, has said he has asked for from McDermott, and even then goes back and looks at the film, and they discuss the play calls that he did. Vic, for a first-time defensive play caller, how critical is preseason action?
Oh, this for him is huge because it does give him a game-like experience to make those calls. Look, this is really not as big a novice situation as we might paint it to be. He has been doing the play calling out here. He works extensively when they're not on the field on the types of calls that he will make. And one of the things he's expressed, Bobby Babich, is that Shawn has given him some space to do things, to feel like this is going to be his show to run. I think Shawn's way is to sort of lead him in there gradually and then step away and say, it's all yours.
I did find it interesting. Shawn did admit that throughout training camp practices, he's actually spent more time fixated on the offense, and it's not just because there's a lot of new pieces. He legitimately said a reason is he doesn't want Bobby to feel like he's over his shoulder, and I think that's really smart and shows the trust that McDermott has. It's not like, hey, we're going to give Bobby Babich the DC because we're afraid we're going to lose him to another team, which they would have. I think that also maybe factors into why ultimately I believe, and I think that we're in agreement, he will be the defensive play caller come the regular season. Camp is over. We've all spent a variety of time here. We're not going to go over what happened today. It was a light practice and all of that. Lindsay, what's something that maybe you are eyeballing going into camp that now upon reflection, you kind of have a little more of a conclusion on?
You know what? I'm going to flip it a little bit because I think that I probably have an answer that one of you will also do. How about a guy who maybe you didn't have your eye on, that now everyone has their eye on? For me, that's Tyrell Shavers. Everyone's been talking about it. Josh Allen talks about him, says he's doing the little things right. Shawn McDermott today, no one brought him up in conversation, and he goes out of his way to say Shavers, once again, is the most consistent guy every single day in, day out. I think that says a lot about him. I think he's a guy that flew under the radar in terms of, in this receiver group where guys are, you're making early predictions of who's going to make the roster. And guess what? I think he's right up there with everyone. And I think he had just about as good of a training camp as he could have ever
One
wished
quick
for.
note here on Shavers. McDermott mentioned a standout play on special teams. And Vic, when we're filling out a 53-man roster, people don't like it because it's not sexy. Special teams is the number one factor for roster guys 45 to 53 or in that realm. If Shavers can make an impact on special teams, that's a bigger deal for him making the roster than what he can do offensively because he's probably the 6th wide receiver in that scenario. That is something that if he finds a niche in special teams and then continues to make some sort of play and impact offensively, that's the path for Tyrell Shavers to make the team.
Yeah, and look, we're going to have to see this on a consistent basis. It's not a lot of time, but in the preseason games, in that scrimmage with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, this guy's got to get a lot of run to show and secure a spot, even if it's a special team spot. Yes, a coach jumps out and likes to, or sees somebody who jumps out at him and likes to point that out. But through the years, I've seen guys that I called all Fredonia, and they weren't necessarily all Bills. I've seen guys all Pittsford, and not necessarily all Bills. I am not trying to pour water on that, but I'm saying this is still a hard team to make, even with all the changeover at receiver in the defensive backfield, on the offensive line. Still a team that is above that line of, okay, it's a challenge to make this roster. He might just do it, and maybe some other surprises might be there. But the biggest thing I was looking for in this camp, and I'm still concerned, is how would the receiver position shake out? I think seeing injuries, Chase Claypool, I think Marquez Valdez-Scanlon, there wasn't the jump out elements that I expected. Yes, Keon Coleman made some eye-opening plays. He's still more of a popular guy than, in my view, a football player who's really secured, say, a starting position in the roster. The depth chart sort of indicates that, at least at the beginning. We'll see how that shakes out. And then the secondary, those injuries, especially at safety, are a concern.
I agree. Coleman, he's had the flash moments. You've seen him on the Bills' social media pages. We've tweeted about them. We've talked about him in stories. There also have been inconsistencies, which is absolutely okay. The guy is a rookie. You can have the expectations, and as has been reiterated from the minute Stephon Diggs was traded, they're not bringing any one player in here to be Stephon Diggs, and he certainly isn't going to be that, at least not out the gate. Who knows, projecting down the pike here. The secondary, the safety position, that was the other main talking point. Lindsay, we haven't seen anything from Mike Edwards because he's been hurt again. Then Cole Bishop, thank you. You talked to him off to the side, and then the next day he gets hurt, and we haven't seen him since.
Nice job, Lindsay.
Nice work, Lindsay. The Bills will be sending you a check there. And then, of course, that's Damar Hamlin. You have Taylor Rapp's kind of a set it and forget it. We've seen Cam Lewis be elevated back into the safety after they put a lot of his reps early at the nickel spot. Vic, you said you're concerned. Where do you stand at the safety position right now, Lindsay?
Obviously concerned. I mean, the two guys that they thought would be fighting for this spot essentially are the two guys that are injured, and they're not day to day, they're week to week. That's not the greatest sign. But, I do have to say, I just feel like this whole thought process behind Damar Hamlin actually earning and deserving this spot. Everyone is not necessarily all on the same page about that, and I think you got to give him a chance. I think he has flashed definitely during camp, and he's kind of trying right now, as we've heard from coaches and other players say, his focus is here. It's not anywhere in the past. This year it's right here, right now, and they think his mindset is in the right place.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I feel every time he is discussed, especially by Shawn, and I'm going to give Shawn credit for this, he's not going out on an all DeMar Hamlin campaign to be a starter. As a head coach, he can't do that, but he's trying to be, I think, as realistic and grounded as you can be with the expectation of what he can be. Look, they may not have any choice but to put him in there, at least at the beginning. It also wouldn't shock me, again, they've picked up a couple of safeties already. Watch the waiver wire. Let's see who they also will try to bring in here at safety. This could be a position like receiver where there also are some health issues and maybe performance issues where this team has to do some late tweaking to the roster.
I was going to add, not great too, because if you remember back, it was very eye-opening listening to Rasul Douglas talk about how he doesn't really he's out there and he's like, I rely on the safeties, I rely on their communication. I think that just goes to show how important of a role that safeties play on this team, and to have those injuries right off the bat and potentially this be a position of concern to start the preseason at least isn't necessarily very awesome.
Staying in the secondary, Kaiir Elam was a bright spot, and he was a bright spot in the spring. It did carry over not only to camp in T-shirts and shorts, but even once the pads came on. Vic, how critical is Kaiir Elam and his continued upward trajectory? And I want to leave it open-ended because I want you to kind of take the direction of just his improvement, what that means for the team, maybe right now, and you could even delve later.
I think, John, it's incremental improvement. The coaches see it and say it. I also think there's a fair amount of bucking up this guy, trying to boost his confidence level, which coaches will do, and they'll use the media to do that all the time. Talk him up. Look, he's a guy they want to see succeed, especially because he's a first-round pick who is far from panned out as a first rounder. This to me is the make or break camp for him. I don't know that he's made it. I don't know that even the positive words we've heard and some of what we've seen ensures that he's going to be the guy they need. However, depth is critical. I feel that they have maybe the two best positions on the entire team might be the two corner spots with Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford. But you've got to have more than that, and we'll see what comes about with Elam. I'm still semi-skeptical, paint it that way, and I want to see more in the preseason.
I think it's absolutely fair. Kaiir, I spoke with him right here after the last day of camp. He said, the games are big for me now too. I mean, this is where stacking the consistency, which is a word that we keep hearing in relation to not only Elam, but everyone else on the team. I think if he's their third corner, and he can be a reliable third corner, that's fine for this season. Yeah. And then if you're looking a little farther down, Rasul Douglas is a free agent. Christian Benford is his deal's not much longer either. They're going to have some decisions to make, and if you can kind of do that in a stepping position of Elam, you pick up his fifth year. If things show enough promise now, it makes the long-term vision of the cornerback position much better. Offensively, Lindsey, anything else that stood out to you? How about this? What about Josh Allen? That's kind of a guy that you just come to the assumption and conclusion, and at least I do, the dude's awesome, so I don't need to tell you he's awesome. But what did you see from Josh Allen?
It's kind of funny that you phrase it like that, because it is true. You almost look right over him, right? Because you just assume he's going to be great. Honestly, I think he's been more locked in than ever this camp. And I think that comes along with the leadership aspect, that comes along with understanding the situation that he's in right now. So I think he's handled the offseason so far well, and also understanding that you've got all these different pieces. I'm sure it's Joe Brady's first offseason, kind of figuring out what is this offense going to look like. Joe Brady saying this is Josh Allen's offense. He's got a big role, and he's handling it very well.
The messaging that's been there about Josh, again, I agree with both of you about it's easy to just assume he's fine. You don't focus on that. Like Patrick Mahomes, like any other team that has a great quarterback situation, you move on. But The messaging is the thing that stands out to me. Hearing Joe Brady, hearing Shawn McDermott, hearing some others reference the leadership thing. Why is that such a big deal? Because of all the change around him. The expectation is he's got to do more than just be a great quarterback. That'll be enough to help this team be successful, but to elevate those areas, receiver, O-line, even what's happening on defense can come under the heading of a top leader. And I think the feeling is be more of that guy, be more of the guy that is, yes, you are one of the guys and you've got a personality that people enjoy because you don't come off as the, quote, superstar guy that you are. But that doesn't work with the football team. The football team has to know you're the commander at the position. You're the commander of the ship. And I can't tell you specifically that I saw a lot of that makes me believe he's that, but I know why that message is out there.
Do you want to give a comment, Vic, on the mustache?
I think the mustache works for him, except that, you know, it doesn't fill in the way I think. But he's this youthful guy. He's going to be, when he's my age, he's going to look like he's still 17.
I think maybe you should go for the mustache.
No,
maybe I'll draw one on. I don't know.
Maybe draw one on. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm beard only. The mustache, I look creepy. We'll just call it what it is, man.
It's going to be white. It's
we're
I'm a little disappointed that he said only 3 guys really followed through with it. I mean, that's a little disappointing on the offense.
Well, there are some young guys on that team. I mean, maybe they can't grow a mustache.
Draw it on.
Maybe in 6 months. Oh yeah.
Yeah, their playoff mustache will be peach fuzz by the end of the regular season. As we said, camp over here at St. John Fisher. Our time sleeping in dorm room beds and hanging out at the Pittsford pub and the dairy, it's over. We'll do it again next year. It'll be fun. With Vic, Lindsay, I'm John, Channel 2 Sports.